Bunny's Designs. This is a live show, live Thursdays. It's recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I'm working in Fantomorphia, and my New Year's resolution is still holding up, although I can't remember what I used on that one. But, no, I can't remember. I haven't written it down, have I? I started to write down on my little tabs what I used so I remember. Because unfortunately the memory's going. So in my little book of watercolours, I've revamped it, and it's got a 2-inch spine which seems to hold up quite well. I'm not happy with the thinner plastic, but at the moment I can't think of anything to do with that unless I destroy one of these and use these nice plastic inserts. So I prefer this plastic, but the spine was never big enough for me because I wanted to get lots and lots of colours in. So I've got the Peerless in, and the Peerless are on extra wet sketchbook paper, so they arrive in a little book. And if you keep them in the book, you must keep them dry. And this is my original set. Now I have bought a new set for a new book, so there's nothing but Peerless in there. But this one holds everything, so it's going to hold about 10,000 colours and shades by the time. There'll be 1,000 squares, and that should be about 10,000 shades and tones, because every square has 10 shades. So this is the original, so there's only a little bit being cut off, and then another one I think I put into the other piece I put into somewhere else. So it lasts a long, long time, and they are very, very, very strong. So I kind of like that. So they'll be going into a vintage set, and this other little vintage one will have my Derwent watercolour pencils, and this set is going in my Bible journal, pouch. Thank you, darling. So that means that sometimes when I'm flipping from the Derwent ink 10s from the Derwent pencils, I'm flipping and I end up at this side, and these will go through your Bible pages, but Derwent watercolour pencils don't. So in order for me to, plus the fact that I won't be using Peerless in the Bible or Neocolor 2s because they're very strong and they go through. So this little book will be just my Derwent watercolour pencils in big squares, and that will go in my Bible journaling pouch. But this one is kind of my overall for colouring books. This has got everything in one place: the Graphitint, Inktense pencils, Derwent watercolour pencils, Graphitint. There'll be quite a few other things in there as well. I had the Gansai Tambi watercolours. It'll have my Winsor & Newton Cotman tube set in little squares all the way through, and I'll probably make a page of yellow colours and a page of oranges, a page of reds, because I'm only about just over halfway, so there's a lot of way to stuff this little book. But I do want 10,000 colours in here, so I think I'm going to get there. So, but it's an experiment, but it's a lovely little book, and it's easy. And sometimes when I get all my colours in, I originally used it, I would use the red of the Peerless, and I might use a green of the Derwents. I never differentiated between the Peerless and the crayon or a pencil. I kind of mixed and matched. The only one I don't normally mix is the Derwent Graphitint, because they're kind of they're a grungy colour, and I didn't normally mix those with my other colours, but you could do, and I probably might do. So I shall flick and use a blue in a Neo. I might use a yellow in the Derwents, and then I might use a red in the Peerless to create one page with lots and lots of colours. But again, I can't do that in the Bible pages, because if I get carried away, I'll end up going through my page. So that's why I'm making this little tiny book that will just have Derwent watercolour pencils, and it will be just for Bible journaling. and Bible watercolouring. So I have the Peerless, and I actually use my Elizabeth Arden face cream, an empty jar, because it reminds me of a little inkwell and it won't tip up. And then the top, you can use a jam jar. This is a baby, not a baby, it's a face sponge, and you can get them different sizes. I used to use a baby wipe, but my New Year's resolution is to get rid of my baby wipes, or my mid-year resolution I should say, because we're in May now. So I've just popped this, and you need a bit of a lip because this is going to get quite wet. So you do need a little bit of a dip, and then when it gets too wet, you can tell, you squeeze it out and it lasts you. But the nicest thing about this is a light glass, so I can put this in here, turn the lid on, and I leave this in, and it means I've got a sealed unit. But if you're on your desk, you can have a little pot, or you can use the lid, the jam jar lid, to get the brush flat, because you don't really want to be doing this. So what you can do is fill this with water and then twist on there, but this has to be on another surface because it will leak. So I can dip and then draw back, and as you can see, this one is dry, and you're going to have a barely damp brush. That means that you can touch any of these squares and get colour right on the end, and then when you manipulate it along a shape, you can have a watercolour effect. So because you're going from full strength, but this rigger slowly releases dampness. We don't want water. We couldn't use a water brush, a normal water brush, because when you touch it, the water whooshes out. We don't want that. We just want a continuous slow stream. And the riggers were originally for when they were painting sailing ships and they had all the ropes and they wanted to do a long thin line. They used the riggers because it just releases colour very slowly. But we only put colour on the tip if we have a small space, and then that can give you a watercolour effect. So I've chosen my damp sponge, and because I leave it in here, it is just nice and damp. So we're dunking and we're drawing back and twisting, and it does two things. It takes away the moisture, so it's a barely damp brush, and that means it doesn't matter how thin your pages are on your colour book, it won't go through, or it hardly ever causes crinkles. It causes a little bit of crinkle in a Bible page, but the Bible pages are the thinnest. But it also draws the paintbrush to its beautiful original point, and that's what we want. We want a point to get into those little tiny spaces. So my favourite brushes for this kind of work is the Graduate Daler Rowney, a number 1 and a number 2 rigger. I then have a 2.0 half rigger, and this one is a Pro Art Master Stroke Series 64, and my favourite for little tiny really small spaces is the Daler Rowney liner, and this is a 10-0. So we have 2, 1, and then this one is a 2-0, sorry, 2, 1, 0, and then we'll have a 2-0, and then we'll have a 3 and a 5-0 and 10 zeros down here, and that's where that one goes. But in theory, I've got a fat, a medium, and a small, and a liner. And really, you could do with every other number. In most of my other sets, I have a 3, 5, and a 7, or a 1, 3, 5, or a 2, 4, 6. Because it's easier. Sometimes there's not much difference between the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 5. But if you get a 5 and a 3, you've got a fat and a medium. So the number 1 would be the fine one. And the 10-0 seems to be a really nice, fine paintbrush. And they're only a couple of pounds each. They are synthetic. I do have some beautiful Winsor & Newton riggers, and you can see I don't think this is squirrel, is it? Sable. It holds quite a lot of water, and there's a lot of kind of brush there, so it would be too big to do this kind of area. If you were using a bigger area here, then it probably would be better. But the other thing you need to do is you need to work in small areas. So instead of doing the whole skull, I'd have to do sections of it. And luckily we've got lights and dark shades here, so we can do the lighter shades, and then we can use where the cross hatching is, and when it's very dark we can use an even darker colour. So that these kind of pages really lend themselves well for this type of I've called it watercolouring, and watercolouring is colouring in a colour book with a damp brush to get a watercolour effect. But obviously if we were going to just do a watercolour with a watercolour brush, these pages would just disintegrate. So I'm going to zoom in. I can get rid of that. So this is all I need. You can use an ordinary little brush. You can use, again, I've got 3 sizes here because I find the 3 size works really well for me. And actually the sizes of the brush doesn't indicate the size of where they are, because the biggest one is actually the finest one. And again, I've got 3. So I've got one for a bigger space, and then I've got, sorry, that one goes in the middle, and this is the little Winsor & Newton one you get in the Cotman sets, and then the finest one is the Da Vinci Maestro Voyage. But I don't know the numbers because lots of things have worn off. I think they bought this one for Cass Art. But I do like synthetic for colour pages. But again, that would be my travel set, because you can pop those and they all work in a different way. You pull that one up and then you put the top on. And you can put those in your pencil case. So of course they'd be really good with this set, because that's all you would need, and your little pot. And of course you wouldn't take a big pot with you, you'd just take a small one. So let's crack on with those. So they're the brushes we have, and this will be part 4, I think. And you need to work comfortably. So if you're right-handed, you would want things on the right, but I'm left-handed, and what you don't really want to be, I mean, I actually work like this because I like this way, but some people would, if you were left-handed, you would do this. I find it easier because my shoulder won't go back as much, so I find it easier to have the colours next to. I wouldn't normally put them on top. I normally do this so you can see how much colour I'm getting off, and it is normally the top of a pin head, tiniest amount of colour, and that's why these Peerless have lasted me. Now they are very, very, very strong, but I'm using them quite weak, in which case I'm using a tiny amount. So I shall move the camera down and we can zoom in, and we can start. And again, they're barely damp, so they're dried now. So once you've dunked and twisted, you have to go straight for your colour and do it. If you stand waving this about, especially in the warm weather, this will be dry within seconds. It's normally about 2 or 3 seconds after I've done it that I can touch it. That's just how barely damp it is. And that means that you're not going to damage your page, and you're not going to smudge anything. And it's even using this in the hospital. I've sat with this on my knee, and it's really easy to do. So I shall move the camera and I'll have a very quick slurp, as Floyd used to say, but mine's coffee, not wine, unfortunately. Although in this country it is, in the UK it's 10:35, but you always say it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So bear with me a second while I just knock the camera down. Sorry guys, I did the wrong thing. I hope I didn't make you sick. I meant to shut it. Sorry guys. May have been a bit ick then. So I'm just go on there and readjust the focus. So now you can see nearer, you can see I do have a little bit of a watercolour effect. So you start dark and just manipulate the colour around. But if you want to see that more clearly, this is part 4, I think, of this particular page. And all I do is I flip to a colour. So I have yellows, a page of yellows and a page of oranges, a pale of reds and pink reds, a pale of purples and purple blues, and then I've got turquoise blues and turquoise greens, and then I have ordinary forest greens, and then I have some browns, ochres and black, and a couple of greys. And again, that's just a really nice combination, and that's without mixing any colours together. We're just using one colour quite simply. So this is recorded for Ustream, so if anybody got any questions, just pop them in caps. Thanks for stopping by guys, I hope everybody's well. We have another sunny day, so apologies because the fan is on in the background, otherwise I will melt in my new room. So I am in the new studio, but it's not finished yet, but we're getting there. So let's find a butterfly. We'll find this one here. We've got 3 there if I leave them like that. So again, what I do is I just flip and I have a look about here, and sometimes I look at the other side of the page and think, what have I neglected? Because sometimes I get a bit carried away with these gorgeous pinks. So I think this one could have some purple in it. So we've got a mauve and an amethyst, and I think I'm going to be using the number 1 brush. Oh no, maybe we have the yeah, you've got to choose the space for the brush. So this one would be bigger, probably there, and this one is a smaller one. And again, you want to have your brushes handy and they're not going to roll away. So I do like using sometimes my little tray. I think it's a model tray, and it will hold a cutting mat, and it has little pots and shaped plastic round, and that stops the paintbrushes rolling around. But of course I'm on my desk today, so we shouldn't be too bad. So I think we'll have a purple. We could have a purple and a blue, so I'm going to go for deep blue. And again, the damp brush twisted, so it's damp and it's just touching a pinprick. And again, you've got to be fairly comfortable. So this pinprick of colour you can see, and it probably take you a little while to get used to. Maybe that was a little bit small, that brush. I like the number 1. Let's have a look. That's not a bad point on that one. Depends how long you want that particular. Probably go back to the half rigger. So again, a pinprick of colour. This time I'm going to go up the other side here. So if you did a photocopy, it wouldn't take you long before you can match this one with this one, and you get the watercolour effect. You can also go one way with one colour and one way with the other, and I've done that one with lots of others as well. So again, not even a pinhead of colour. It's going to give you that beautiful effect. And these colours are very strong. So if you wanted very, very dark blue, you obviously would work differently. and this rigger is releasing that dampness, so we have that beautiful transition. And then we need to go around this one. I'm going to go that way because I think I got a little bit too much. Sometimes you can judge you get too much, but once you start you can't stop, because you'll get a line, and we want a lovely continuous flow. Now, and you can do this with any good quality, but the Hydrus and the Peerless, and it's not the Hydrus, it's the Hydrus, Dr. Martens PH Hydrus, they are professional watercolours, as the Peerless are as well, so that's why it works really well. I'm using my 2.0 Pro Art Series 64 half rigger, because that is a small one. I was going to use the number 1. I used the number 1 graduate for all the others, but this is the smaller butterfly. I mean, it's not as big as my thumb, so it is a diddy one. And what I can do is, if I do this, you can now really see how it works. So I think actually I'm going to go for, I think I might do geranium pink, I think. Oh, tea rose red. We'll have a blue and a red one. I don't know if we've got a blue and a red one. And again, the tea rose red is one of my favourites, but it's very strong. So that wasn't even half a pinhead. The only thing with a smaller brush is you've got less dampness. If you want to draw it out, you've got to be fairly quick, because it will dry out very quickly. And it's a very nice, quiet, easy way to work, I think. And this is a really tiny space, this one. So sometimes you don't always get the look, and sometimes that's quite nice, because otherwise it would be kind of a bit kind of man-made rather than natural. So you're using the skill you get, and by the time you've finished a page you will get used to the brushes, amount of colour you need, amount of dampness you need. And again, that's why if you haven't done it before, photocopy is brilliant. And I've just got a little bit of this that will go on there. So now that one's finished. So it's fairly quick as well, which again I like. Clean, quick and easy, and also it's a nice effect. If I have just kind of done a very quick thing and I didn't like it, then I wouldn't want to do it. So this now has to be a bigger brush, because this one is too small. So I'm now going to the Daler Rowney number 1. Mine's nearly worn off because I've used it a lot. But if you look at the, again, damp the brush, twist to a point. It's the point that does the magic. So that's what we want. So while I'm looking for my colours, my brush is now almost dry. So I wet it and twist it for what I want to use it for. And I think I'm going to go for daffodil yellow. Oh, no, I'm not. Sorry. We've got a daffodil yellow there. We've got a yellow right next to it. So, a very quick look. Very quick look. And again, always flipping through. I think we'll have Robin Egg Blue. Again, that brush is a bit damp, so rather than waste the paint on the end, if you nip it and don't touch the end and rub, twist and nip it again, we've made that now barely damp. So we've saved the colour rather than washing it away. And the other perfect thing about this way of working is there's hardly any colour left, just a tiny spot of colour. and normally there isn't any, but I didn't get to that palest bit. So again, Robin Egg Blue, a touch, and again this brush is now a little bit too damp, but because it's a small space, it's not going to ruin the page. And I think I'm going to do the bottom one as well. So again, you've got to be comfortable because you can't stop once you start. You have to be comfortable, and you have to dunk and twist every time. So we've got the dark here, but again that little brush would have run out about now, but we need it to carry on. So the dampness is determined by the size of the brush. Just to carry that down a bit. Oh, you're welcome, Melody. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by, everybody. I hope you're having a pleasant day. We have still got some pleasant weather in England, but we have a bank holiday coming up, so I'm sure that can change. I think I'm going to put a purple next to that green. I think I want heliotrope, and it's a very soft purple. Is this one? It's not strong. Now that one doesn't match that side, but I want to let that dry, I think, because if you go of it too much, you destroy the page and it will buckle. I've just about got away with it because again this brush is barely damp. I think I'm going to go to amethyst because I would like a watercolour effect. And because this brush is bigger, it's staying, oops, I thought it was staying damper longer. So you'll get that really deep purple. And there is a big difference between this brush and the other one. And I do have some very faint purple on the end, so I can just manipulate that. But remember, the more you rub, the more you damage your page, so you do have to be a bit careful. I think I'm going to go with the smaller brush and see what happens, because it is a smaller space that when we look at this one. So again, this is the half rigger, so pick the colour up. Now another way to do it is like this, so you're doing 3 at once. You don't always have to do each individual one. You can do 3. And of course this way now we're dragging it backwards. It's always better to drag it forwards, because sometimes riggers have minds of their own. Really, so I'm just going to see if I can just go over that a little bit. But I kind of like that. It looks like a really nice kind of placid butterfly. So I kind of like this one. So I just swizzle that one up to there. And of course we've got the blue and the red one, green and purple, so I think we'll have orange. I have a chrome yellow one there. So again, the size of a pinprick. This is again a small space. So that beautiful yellow until it goes to almost nothing. Now you can go up and down, or down and up, whichever way you want. Possibly I should have gone under the wing darker than the top, but never mind. We've done that way around. And again, you sometimes have to look so we do have quite a small brush here. I think I'm going to go to the rigger. I'm going to use the 10, the Graduate De La Rowney liner, and this one is 10-0. And I've used that for a lot of small spaces. So we'll just see, we just need to go back to that brilliant yellow and do the bottom one. So it's a very quiet way to work as well as this. So you can do this at the hospital. I would use a bigger page, and I would use a Derwent watercolour brush number 1. It's nearly the only brush I use in a colour book, because it's just got that least amount of water, but it's no good for a little tiny space like this. What else shall we have? Sometimes you have to look back on the other side to have a look. I think we'll have a red. That one's going to be turquoise, I think, because I've got obsession with turquoise and pink. I think we'll have a yellow and a red. Japonica Scarlet, I think we'll try that one. And if you're not sure, sometimes I have a little bit of paper. Now I did pick quite a lot of colour off here, so I'm doing these two together so they will get paler and paler. And then just that tiny bit there. And of course, because it's mirrored, we should do the same on the other side. So we have, and basically it works in the same principle but in reverse from the Chameleon blendable pens. They take the colour out and the colour rushes back. This one, we have the colour on the ends and the dampness makes it. But you couldn't use the markers. I think I'm going to go darker with the tips. I could have used a different colour there, but I think it's okay. And we have another little soft butterfly. So go back to the number 1 because this is a bigger butterfly. So again, you're choosing the tip because we want a watercolour effect. And I think I am going for my butterfly wing blue. It's one of my favourite colours. So I think because I've picked up quite a lot and this is a bigger brush, I think I'm going to do the 3 at once. So you just have to keep going and pushing that colour up to be very, very soft. Now normally I would turn the page because you have to kind of be very comfortable. In fact, I just move my cold tea out of the way. You really do have to move. And this is why I bought this very quickly. I bought this from a model railway show. And it's called a rotating self-healing cutting mat. And basically you can put something on it and turn it round. It's on a very simple thin mechanism, and you can also use it for cutting as well. But what it enables you to do, if I've got it the right way around, It's a very simple mechanism. I mean, it's not, it was only £15. Just can't get it to work now. That's better. So basically, the bottom has got a non-slip and the top one rotates. I mean, it's only 1/4 of an inch probably, but it's just enough to turn. So it means that you can turn this butterfly. Sorry guys, I'm going to make you sick. Where's my butterfly gone? So you can turn this here. And that is a bit damp again, you can nip and pinch and push the colour out. I think I'm going to go to a smaller brush . So I've gone back to the half rigger because this is, again, smaller spaces. Unless you were going to go like this, I think I'm going to go for the rigger. But again, if it gets too wet, you can nip it and then flattened it. So you nip it gently that way. You haven't touched the end, the colour's still there, but you've made it that little bit paler. I think I'm actually going to do this with the green, I think. And you can tell when you put that on how it's going to go. And sometimes I kind of like this way of you get a little bit of pattern on which you wouldn't normally. So this is Robin Egg Blue, and again quite dark, pale, and of course you can go light to dark, dark to light, up and down, back and forth, whichever way you want to. So of course now I need to turn my page, and if I didn't have anything in the way, my turning circle would do this for me, but again I need to turn away. Just having lots of things on my desk until I'm this way again. You've got to be easy with the wrist, because if you're not comfortable, it's not easy to do. So again, a dunk and a twist. Draw back on that, either a baby wipe or a face wipe, and then we're going to go in there with some colour. And if it's a bit paler, just do 2. You can always go back and do that little one. And then we'll do these 3. And again, I think we're going to do, I think I'm going to take this duck egg blue and take this down here. I think I'm going to go over the top of these little circles. Sometimes when you're doing this, like with the chameleon pens, you can't mess about. Oh, sorry guys, you can't mess about. So do the next one. And that way I did get a really nice watercolour effect. And it's a little bit smaller space, so I'm going to do it all at once. I think that was butterfly wing. So again, a little bit darker, but we can always say that's because they're underneath. And sometimes you just have to go with the riggers. So I think I normally do 2 colours, but I think I might do 3 actually. I think I might have the deep blue, so it's almost like an ultramarine. It's a blue purple and it's deep blue, and I think I'm going to start down here, and really I should have been the other way around. But I kind of like that lovely effect, so I'll try and get that one on the other way. And again, really do have to make sure that you have the angle on the wrist before you, before you start. Now I've folded my paper over, my book over, it doesn't like it. And of course now it's made that green really pop. I think I want to go from here. And again, you can tell this brush is a little bit wetter. Now you may not want a watercolour effect at all, you may want it all one bright colour. Of course, that's fine. I think this edge might be all one colour, so you have a paler effect. And then I think in the middle, and again now I know that brush is too big, I'm going to go to the half rigger, pick up the deep cobalt blue and manipulate that. Again, not quite enough colour on there, so this one. But you may find some butterflies will work perfect and others don't. It depends on climate. Now that probably would have worked brilliant in the winter, but because we've got a really warm day, which is quite unusual for the UK, I can tell you, there wasn't just enough colour on there. But I still like that butterfly. It's still very bright and it's next to some really bright colours. So we've got a little tiny one down here. So if you've got any questions, guys, pop them in caps. I get a bit carried away and I kind of go in my own little tiny way. I'm going to use the Dale Rowney liner now, the 10-0, because that is a bit of a small space, the little tiny wings. But again, you need to be comfortable. Oops, sorry guys. So I need to be this way. Oh, bye V, thanks for stopping by. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for the information about the bung. who's getting better. I'm going to use Royal Crimson, I think, because I don't know, and I've got a rogue hair, which is not brilliant. So we've got a very strong colour, and again, sometimes you don't get that watercolour effect, and I need a lot less colour this time because this is a smaller space. And so is this one. So by picking up less colour, I've instantly gone, instead of getting here, I've gone to there, quite naturally. Now that does take a bit of practice, I have to say. It doesn't always work like that. This one might be darker. Nope, might just be a bit lighter, so that was okay. And then we want something to go right the way around. So I do need the number 1 for this because I need a long rigger that's barely damp, but it's going to take that colour all the way around. I think I'm going to go with cobalt blue. Maybe I should have done a green there, but and it is barely a pinprick. Now the dampness is built all the way around, so we just want the tiniest amount to do the same. And I sometimes kind of like the fact that it's slightly different. So when I turn that the right way round, it's just going to turn around on its turning circle, and I can just, oops, move that up. It looks like the light's catching on the butterfly wings. Oh, thank you, V. Have a wonderful day. The only thing with this is sometimes you get a bit carried away. So there's a butterfly on the edge there, so we're going to do him next. So again, I look around and I think, well, I've got some blues and turquoise, what colour haven't I? And I flick through the colours. I haven't had like a forest green, what I call a normal green. I've got a viridian, I've got an olive colour, and again, sometimes you might not want to do olive colours, but some look quite nice with darker colours. Again, if it's the same pattern butterfly, like a monarch, you do them all the same. Or you don't have to, but you could do. Maybe another purple would be good. I haven't tried this purple. Again, if you haven't tried it, sometimes it's a good idea to use a piece of plain white paper, but I've dropped mine on the floor, so we're just going to go for this one. And again, I'm not comfortable, so I do have to turn it round. And I can just turn it round on my turning mat. And then I will move the mat down so you can see the butterfly that we want. Because I do need to be comfortable to get around that butterfly. So start again, twist, draw off the water so it's just barely damp, and I think I'm going to use dark green. Am I going to use a green? No, I think I'm going to use my geranium pink. I'm a bit obsessed with geranium pink. So I mean, this is a tiny space, 5mm, something like that, and I've actually gone over, but I'm not bothered because I'm going to put a darker colour in, so sometimes you don't have to panic. Of course, if it was a stronger colour I might have been across it myself, but even though this is the quite strong geranium pink, that's quite nice. And with only using about a pinprick, these squares of very strong colour last a long time. I think I'm going for a... There's quite a lot of blue over there. I might use a green actually. Dark green. Let's see what that does. And again, that's a very soft dark green. But again, that's really nice because, again, it's showing you that you can get quite a few colours from one. I'm just going to put a little bit of darker green on that one. And again, that's quite a nice olive green because we've got pink in there. So I'm just going to move straight to this next one. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to use my a deep yellow. It's almost like a chrome. And I do like this colour. And some colours behave slightly different, but not many. But again, you want to have that nice natural curve wrist action, which you can't get if your hand's twisted round the other way. So you do need to be fairly comfortable. So you can tease that colour out. So you can either push it out, and that was a little bit pale, so if I can just get a little bit more colour. And I think I'm going to use deep blue for this. I've just got a feeling I like this deeper blue with that soft colour. I think I'm going to do that, a pale tip there. But of course you can choose whatever colours you like. Now this is a very strong, but what it's going to do is make that beautiful, soft yellow just pop. I think I'm going from the bottom upwards. And one last bit. Take that up there. And then take it back down. So again, when we turn that butterfly the right way up, it's going to look really pretty. So we've got, I'd like to say 2 butterflies, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, I think there's 5. There's 5 butterflies. Right, so let's have a look. What time are we on? I think if I wasn't doing this, I think I'd be kind of a little bit faster. So we've got 2 butterflies on the outside, and I was hoping to finish this, but I'll show where we are at the moment. So let me just zoom out a bit. So we can now see all those different butterflies, and they look so much different when they're all together. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, I've done those. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 5 butterflies to do, and I think I'll do the skull quite dark, and then the teeth will show up. So thanks for watching, guys. That's the end of part 4.